congratulations to Dr. Rajpathirana. I'm also very pleased to have the opportunity to read more of your work. I have a question to both former President and Dr. Rajpathirana. I mean, when we look at globalization, whether, we're talking about current, what is happening now, but what prompted Americans, 52% of that population, to vote for a change? Because even before elections, you could see that, President Donald Trump was going to take a more sort of a protectionist view on the US economy. The manufacturing sector, the blue-collar workers were losing jobs to what they perceived to be cheaper imports from China. Even to some extent, the UK decision to move out of EU is also a response to some of, pressures for de-link from regional integration in source. So it's not only a story that's unique to us here. So in terms of the policy context, I think what we have always found it very difficult is, technocrats can sit around and say, yes, globalization is good for these, but how do we convince the vast majority of our voters to go along with that? And what are the sort of benefits that can be showcased to those who do lose out? I mean, there are losers of globalization. So in terms of for Sri Lanka also, as we go from this crisis and a new government, a new approach, how can we bring 51+% of the population along with us? And again, I would ask the former president also, what would be the specific proposals to put on the table to tackle that issue? Because we go back and forth largely because populations are not convinced that this is delivering what they want. I mean, day-to-day improvements in their living standards.
Dr. Rajpathirana, do you want to
But mostly
respond?
the politics is sort of bed and butter question here. People are saying when they have election, what are they giving us always? That is the thing. Not whether there is a good democracy or people are free to, no. What can we get? I mean, very good, sensible people ask this question. So if you go back to Lee Kuan Yew's definition of non-existing resources, what is that game? But actually, I don't see whether this government is going to or is capable of putting it out and saying, this is what works, this is what we shall do. The first 100 days and what they have done with the rest has been good. So let's hope that they get the idea to really follow economic reforms that are needed, and to somebody to explain what the reforms are, how it will benefit them. Nobody has done that to date.
President, you want to respond? How do we convince a vast majority, while there may be losers in the in globalization, how politics should respond, and how should we convince them?
Well, first question was on US. I think Democrat Biden failed. In my view, I met him in 2023. I had known him earlier. You could see he was in decline. And no one talked of getting ready for the post-manufacturing age. China has done that. Doesn't have multi-party democracy. No one there talked of it. A lot of people are getting affected. So Trump capitalized on that. Sri Lanka, people suffered. So one was they blamed the existing politicians for it, on both sides. That worked to the advantage of the NPP. Secondly, the other sides didn't give answers. They were giving promises, we'll redo it. We added about 1 million people onto the tax net that are left out. So all of them didn't go work, happily to go and vote. And they were promised now, and the threshold of this has been raised, but how are you getting the funds? You are not getting the funds, you are compressing your expenditure. So that itself is affecting the workings of the economy. Then the other one they couldn't answer was that they were only dealing with corruption. When I signed the EFF, corruption was a big issue. And I agreed I said that we need a new anti-corruption act. And Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa drafting it. So he brought that. It's under this that all of them are now functioning, not any other. Secondly, I didn't stop any cases that had been filed earlier when we were in government. Thirdly, I allowed a minister in the government to be arrested. First time in Sri Lankan history. And then I got the governance diagnostic done by the IMF. That has still to be implemented. That's all, but we have all the cases of some poor public servants, I don't know, the guys, when the country was in a crisis and when the political leaders were running away and our democracy could even break down, today we are hammering, only the public servants are there. I know many of them didn't agree with me and say they did not vote for me, but they worked. If they did not work, we would not have been able to have pulled this country through. All I had were the public servants. No one else. So when I see what is going on, okay, some of them certainly, all those who are guilty of corruption, you should, but I feel some of them are, from what I read, there will be a question mark or some of the others. Now if you are not going to protect your public servants, how are you going to run the country? We won't have economy very soon.